To the SmarkTank Revolution, where we always kick out at 2. I'm your host, Mr. Donnie Wonderful, the Benevolent Intelligent, aka Big Time Donnie. And I just had to turn this mic on for a little bit to focus on the thumbnail picture here that you guys see. Summerslam 1993, pictured are Bret Hart on the left, Hulk Hogan on the right, the World Wrestling Federation Championship in the middle of them, on the bottom. You guys see it. What would this have meant in 1993 for the Hitman? Because Hulk Hogan was clearly on his way out, heading to WCW, and he would arrive in WCW the following summer. As a matter of fact, this time in 1994, if not a month or two earlier, he's wrestling the Nature Boy, Ric Flair, for the WCW World Championship. So, it's safe to say, and Bret Hart has alluded to what was supposed to happen in his book, My Real Life in the Cartoon World of Wrestling, the Wrestling Encyclopedia, as it's been dubbed by the other marks or smarks. And he's also mentioned this in several interviews. And legend has it that there was a promo picture taken for the cover of SummerSlam where they're both playing tug of war with the title. And that brings us back to the ending of WrestleMania 9, where Bret loses to Yoko due to interference from Mr. Fuji. Hulk Hogan comes out and cries foul. Mr. Fuji and Yokozuna challenge Hogan right there on the spot. And the Hulkster becomes five-time champion, five-time WWF champion in 128 seconds, or something really, radical. Now, from a booking standpoint, that, first of all, not even a booking standpoint. Imagine, and I said this on another episode in the past, but if you're new, imagine going to school and it's recess time. Everybody's a fan. Everybody's a wrestling fan at the time, but not everybody has watched or could purchase the pay-per-view. You go to Resource, they ask you, hey man, Bret versus Yoko, who won? Yokozuna. Damn, man, Yokozuna. Yeah, I was in elementary school. I probably shouldn't have been saying damn. But, I was in middle school when DX came out. I shouldn't have been saying suck it either. But just let's roll down memory lane. If this hasn't happened to you, if this didn't happen to you, I understand. But this has happened to me. Damn, man, Yokozuna's the champion? Nah, Yokozuna ain't the champion. Wait a minute, didn't you just say he beat Bret? Yeah, he beat Bret. Then who's the champion? Hulk Hogan. What? How? It was crazy. There have been countless biographies explaining the thought process behind why Vince decided to do it. From both sides, from Vince and Hogan. And I think after a month in, they both agreed that, yeah, this has ran its course. Also, interestingly, in between that, there's Hulk Hogan went to New Japan and actually had a really good wrestling match. I can't remember right now who he wrestled. Again, this is off the cuff. We don't prep. I just plug in a mic and just talk and just go on the tangential tirades, as we like to call them. But back to SummerSlam 1993. I'm actually glad this didn't happen. I'm more happy that this, and I'm a diehard Bret Hart fan, but I can't. I know it likely would have worked out well. I mean, Bret was already by far the most popular wrestler in the WWF, and he offered the best matches at that time. I'm trying to think. Bret Hart definitely would have been the first face on the Mount Rushmore of WWF in 1993. Yes, it's final. But why I'm happy that this didn't happen, even though I can see Hulk Hogan tapping out to the sharpshooter, which would have been amazing. For 1993, actually, a babyface versus a babyface would have been. It really would have been unique, actually. The SummerSlam prior had a babyface versus babyface in the main event, which also featured Bret Hart for the Intercontinental belt. So I can see that, I can see the aesthetics of this happening. But man, we would have been robbed of Jerry the King Lawler. Jerry the King Lawler and Bret Hart was so classic to me. And I'm actually glad that it was booked the way that it was booked, because in my opinion, that's the way feuds start. Jerry Lawler was the heel in WWF at the time, and he ran his mouth. And I think everybody can relate to that. Oh, this guy's talking trash about me. I'm going to see you after school, or I'm going to see you after work, or like almost everyone can relate to that. It's relatable. Jerry Lawler cut promos on Bret Hart's parents right in front of him. Go YouTube it. Go YouTube it. Bret Hart versus Bam Bam Bigelow. Bam Bam wins via countout because Bret Hart leaves and he goes to hunt down Jerry Lawler, who has a live mic and is berating his mother and father. It's classic stuff. Would it have been more significant to defeat Hulk Hogan? Yes. I can agree to that. But it would have robbed us some of that stuff. And one of the strong points which made us fall in love with Bret Hart, aside from the fact that he can sell really well, was the scenarios that he was in often revolved strictly around wrestling. It was more of a gladiator style build up with Bret. Look at Bret and Piper, wrestling. Bret and Perfect, SummerSlam '91, wrestling. There's a title on the line. This one I think was the first time it actually made him more human, because he was, in my opinion, Bret was relatable. I don't care what anyone says about his promos. His promos was real. It's kind of like how boxers or UFC fighters, talk about their upcoming fights or their upcoming opponents. So it was real because we all believed it. And it all revolved around wrestling until, Owen, and, it got more dramatic as the years went on. But up until this point, Jerry Lawler brought that out. Like we sympathize with Bret here. We want him to get his revenge. And everything about that setup, in my opinion, was perfect. It was great to watch. Bret Hart versus Jerry Lawler in SummerSlam '93. Bret Hart comes out first. Jerry Lawler comes out on crutches, claims that he got into a car accident in Detroit, says he has his court jester, Doink the Clown. Doink comes out. They have a match first. Obviously, Jerry Lawler is just faking an injury. Comes off the crutch. Bret has Doink in the sharpshooter. And if you read Bret's book, when Jerry Lawler hits Bret and I guess it's supposed to be in the shoulder, but it whacked him in the face. But he really hit him in the face with the crutch. And go back and watch that, because even afterward, Jerry Lawler's giving him the working boots, and Bret's not selling it because he's literally holding his face, and he even looks at his hands to see if he's leaking blood. But at that point, Bret was already fed up for some reason, something that Lawler did, but he decided that he was going to get him back, and boy, did Bret Hart get him back in that match. It was the conclusion. He worked it. I mean, this is what they called, but Bret Hart really had the sharpshooter on Jerry Lawler. He really had the that whole time. Jerry Lawler's probably in the sharpshooter for 5 strong minutes, and that is a shoot sharpshooter. Bret said that Jerry Lawler was crawling on his hands and knees when he got to the back. That was a shoot sharpshooter. That was payback. Payback, bitch. Yeah. But then, that rolled over into the Survivor Series, which set up Bret versus Owen. The classic opening to WrestleMania 10, which, if you take a poll, will likely be number 1, 2, or 3, your top 3 greatest opening WrestleMania matches of all time. We would have been robbed of that if Bret Hart wins the WWF Championship in 1993. But to be optimistic, who knows where that would have taken him. There's a couple of things that would have been demolished, I guess. It's overlooked Yokozuna's, I guess, his second title run. His first one, he won it that day, lost it that day. But from King of the Ring to WrestleMania 10, especially with what they did to The Undertaker at Royal Rumble 94, it's a victory over The Undertaker, who had a long undefeated streak. You want to talk about streaks. And, it was a big schmoz, and it, from a booking standpoint, when you look at it now, it didn't make sense how they got rid of The Undertaker in that casket match, or why everybody decided to jump The Undertaker. All the heels were in unison, but then they're fighting each other in the Royal Rumble. So that's neither here nor there. That was 1994. But that also made, Yoko seem like he was the Godfather. Like he really had clout as a heel. And I thought that was a nice touch. And even the way, Yoko lost to Bret in 1994. There was like that match where Bret's favoring the knee or the leg or whatever. We would have been robbed of that. It works better when Bret Hart's the underdog and, he's fighting to get his belt back. So I guess in a sense I'm super happy that happened. And I guess on the other side of it, if Hulk Hogan loses clean to the sharpshooter, does he put the belt on Bret and raise his hand like he did with the Ultimate Warrior? I think if Hulk Hogan inevitably was going to Ted Turner, that likely wouldn't have hurt him at all, because you lost to the better wrestler, a believable one. But I do think, had this happened in the end of 1997 and 1998, following the Montreal Screwjob, that Hogan would have got that back. He would have gotten that one back. And that would have been terrible. I mean, WCW, they mismanaged the hottest wrestler at the time. 1997, 1998. Bret Hart, you hear it. He punched out Vince McMahon. Coming over to Nitro, all eyes were on the set. We wanted to hear what Bret Hart was going to say. We wanted to know what Bret Hart was going to do. I promise you, had this match happened in 1993, where Bret was ultimately going to go over, WCW would have found another way to sabotage the best thing that they had going, and Bret Hart coming directly off the conspiracy, the Montreal Screwjob. I mean, not to say that WCW was trash. I mean, WCW hotshotted everything, and we were watching it from the NWO, people joining, people leaving, the faction split, all of that, man. It was live shot TV. And you don't get no realer than that, the Montreal Screwjob. And he's coming over to our network? I promise you, Hogan would have got his get back. And it would have been at the most inopportune time. But then, that's just, we can all speculate. It's my speculation. I think that things worked out well, that this didn't happen. And I know Bret was bitter for a while. I'm not going to go into the details. You guys can hear it in interviews, or if you read Bret's book. There's some bitterness there as to why it didn't happen. But, maybe I'll talk about it one day. But, I just wanted to share my thoughts on this, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Leave a comment. Let us know if you are a fan of the WWF at the time. How would you think this match would have played out? Would it have been better if Hogan submitted to the sharpshooter, or if he got beat clean with like a small package or something? I don't know. Let me know, guys. Thank you.